Oh, hey, I'm glad you're here. Growing up in a video store, my home phone line was a little different than most. I would answer, VCRs and more, and hear, y'all got Witches of Eastwick? And I'd look and say, no. And they'd go, what about Tango and Cash? And I'd look and say, yes. And they'd say, hold it for me, I'll be right over. And sometimes, by the time they came in, another person had returned Witches of Eastwick, and they'd have themselves what they like to call a twofer. Good times. Now, when I get a call, it's a little different. In what way, you might ask? Well, let's take a listen.
Hey, this is Ryan Gowland calling about the new episode of VHS. Hey, Dirk, just want to say congrats on the new season. Congratulations also to you and Sarah on your anniversary. I listened to your episode on Soul Survivor, which I definitely need to watch now just to see that jar of marshmallows. I don't know if that was a thing in the 80s, but I will say that Mark and I's mom, when we were growing up, kept a lot of baking goods and, like, these glass jars with lids on them and stuff, like flour and sugar, which isn't weird, but then she also kept raisins in it in a big jar, so that's where they're always just loosely in this glass jar. We can get raisins at any point, I guess. I don't know, made me think maybe that's not normal that she did that. I don't know. You tell me. But anyway, great episode. Talk to you later.
That was not planned, by the way. That is Ryan, who is this episode's guest. Thanks for calling, Ryan. And yes, in the movie Soul Survivor, there is a marshmallow vessel, which has to be an indie band, right? Hey, did you get that new 10-inch by Marshmallow Vessel? Track 3, Less is S'more, totally killer. Anyway, moving on to raisins, I don't like that at all. No shade on the mom, I'm sure it was a different time, but that feels like a homeschool kid treat, or something seen in a musical theater kid's house. Like you go over, don't realize that's what Brian's into, and he's like, yes, mom left the raisin vase unattended. Treat time for me. Also, flip side of that Marshmallow Vessel 10-inch, definitely raisin vase. They had a 10-minute ambient opus called Wrinkle in Time. Okay, I don't know. Ryan, thank you for calling. And if you have thoughts like this on the episode or you want to share anything, you can call or text 503-395-8858. Maybe you're reading what we talk about in this episode, or you like gravy, or you just enjoy the music we discuss. You can let me know at 503-395-8858, and it'll be included in the next episode. All right, the guest is Ryan. This is VHS, and it's the return of our new releases and late returns. Greetings and salutations. This is VHS Presents New Releases and Late Returns, where we champion what is currently bringing us joy from the realms of entertainment before I look back at a forgotten gem. I'm your host, Dirk Marshall, and I'm joined by returning champion and punk rock assassin Ryan Gowland. Thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Ryan, you're 1/3 of the New World Pictures podcast. How are things going over there?
Correct. The lower third, I like to say. And everything is going great. It's going very well. Thank you for asking. We're having a good time. We're talking New World Pictures movies, and there's a whole lot of them. And we're talking to the people that made them. So we're having a good time.
Fantastic. This is going to come out in 2 weeks. So where will New World Pictures be? I know you do these awesome themed months like August.
Yes. Well, we will be in Sextember.
Oh my.
Yeah. Last year we did Sextember, perhaps the first. And that's where we talk about all the sexy movies that
Mm.
New World's released because, I co-host it with my wife and my brother, and it's really comfortable to talk to them about sexy movies. We've got a great interview with Kat Shea that month,
Oh,
and
wow.
we've got some great sexy movies we're going to chit chat about, and we probably are going to have a little spillover from our haha guest because we have a commentary episode that is requiring a little bit of extra from us, but we did a commentary episode on Adventures in Babysitting with the
Okay.
screenwriter David Simpkins. We loved it, had a great time doing it. It's a lot of fun. We're just prepping it and kind of preparing it. It's a special episode. We're
Mm.
excited about it. We're excited to unveil it, but it probably is slipping out of August and into Sex Temper, where it's kind of awkward to be, but that's all right. That's just where it's releasing.
That's awesome. Our new release late return episodes are returning with this very first one. Well, we've covered a lot of things together. We've covered Face of Fear was your first episode. That was not a new release late return.
No, it wasn't. That was because of my office expertise
Yes, and your ability to
and my
scale buildings.
spelunking.
Yes. We covered Carnival Magic, Secret of Magic Island,
Yep.
Amphibian Man, Ringing Singing Tree. Am I forgetting any?
Spawn.
Oh, Spawn recently. Yes, that's true.
Yes. And in that grouping, Spawn is a real outlier.
Isn't that weird? uh, out of our run so far of the new release late return, so excluding Spawn and excluding Face of Fear, do you have a front runner so far of the treasure trove of cinema?
Well, I think Carnival Magic, it's
Yeah,
kind of hard to beat Carnival
it's
Magic.
true.
Though, is the movie we're talking about tonight, is that going to knock it out? I
I
don't
mean, maybe
know.
we'll return to the question at the end of the episode. But that means that it's time for us to get into new releases, and we start with print. So, anything
Hmm.
you're currently reading?
Yes, I got a book and I do not need to buy another book. I have too many that I'm already like in midst of reading.
Me
And
too.
I buy a lot of books for research for the podcast, but also for the book I am writing. And so I do not need to distract myself with another book, but I could not help it because I saw the trailer for Saturday Night, the movie that's coming out, which is about Saturday Night Live, and the very
Oh,
first episode
yes.
of it. Now, when I was in high school as a young goth kid in a goth band, I was also obsessed with sketch comedy, as all goth kids are.
It goes without
I mean,
saying.
I mean, when you are, going to the music store to pick up the flanger pedal for your bass, you got to make sure you get it home in time to watch Kids in the Hall on Comedy Central.
It's true.
That's what every goth kid did. But in any case, during high school, I read this book, I think two and a half full times. I was obsessed with it, and it is a book called Saturday Night.
Oh.
It's the backstage history of Silent Live for like the first 10 years. And it is a excellent book. And I thought of this book because and then I started looking for it because I know I had read it and I had it for like at least a year and a half, but I borrowed it from a friend at the time. And I realized that flipping through all my books, I was like, I don't own that. So I just got it. I've already read through the first chapter and it's so good. And I'm like caught up in it again. And again, I don't need this distraction, but I can't help it. It's
Yeah.
a great, great book. And I think this might even have had a more recent release where maybe there's even more stuff on it, but I had to get the exact one that I read in high school
Yeah.
because that's just how my brain worked. And maybe I'll get another edition that's got more to it, and then I'll both have them on a shelf. And I'll have two copies of it. And my wife will be like, "Why do you have two copies of the same book? That's dumb." And I'll be like, "Yeah, I know."
I do it with movies all the time. I'm like, this one's got the wrong
Yep.
cover. I need the one with the right cover.
Well, I have two copies of 2020 Texas Gladiators now.
I have four. So,
Yeah. And I thought about getting rid of the DVD I just purchased
Mhm.
before buying the 4K. And then I said, but that one has the wrong movie.
Yeah. It's got the wrong cut.
It's got the wrong cut. And I got to keep it so I can reference the wrong cut.
Yeah, it's true. You gotta have these things.
The dumbest. I have the worst logic.
Same.
Anyway, that's what I'm reading. And I highly recommend this book if you haven't read it.
Saturday
And if you
night.
have any interest in sketch comedy and goth music, I think you'll really enjoy it if those are either your things.
Sisters of Mercy. Highly recommend that book.
Yeah, exactly. That's one of Andrew Eldridge's
Yeah.
favorite books.
Okay.
Yeah. He always at night he reads it to Dr. Avalanche
Yeah.
to put it to sleep.
My reading is happening right now. That's a good way to say it. I'm reading the book.
That's how everyone says it.
Yes.
That's the common phrase for reading.
I have like stacks of books and I hardly dig into them, but I just got this for my birthday. It's called Hellbent for Hollywood. It's the book about
Oh,
Fred
yeah,
Olin
yeah.
Ray.
Yep. I almost got that one too, and I was just like, Ryan, you can't.
You can't.
That's just gonna sit in my house for like a year before I finally flip through it.
Yeah, I opened it.
But I do want to get it. I do want to get that.
Yeah, I opened it. I was very excited that he's just someone that directed a lot of the movies that we had in the video store. And so,
Sure. Yeah.
People that don't know, he did Alien Dead, Cyclone, Evil Spawn, Hollywood Chainsaw Hookers, so many movies that we saw on those video store shelves.
He directed Terminal Force, I believe, is what New World Video released that one. So, like, before we ever talk about that, I will definitely be
Carradine
getting the
movie.
book. Terminal Force is not
Terminal
David Carradine.
Terminal Zone, I think maybe is. Future Force is Carradine. Terminal Zone is that?
I'm not sure who the guy
Bridget
is.
Nielsen, or is it a guy?
I don't know the dude's name. I'm looking for the
All right,
disc because I know I have it here somewhere. But anyway,
so this is the movie I was thinking of. Wait, are we holding the same movie?
No.
We both are holding Terminal Force. I have 1 and 2, the collector's edition with Bridget Nielsen and Richard Mole. What are you holding?
This is Terminal Force, Richard Harrison.
What? Okay.
Just have the same name.
Wow. Okay. We were both right. Anyway, I'm reading this Fred Olin Ray book. It already had a great story about when he was shooting a film with Sid Haig, and Sid Haig was really worried that there was crabs in the water. He was supposed to fall into this lake, and he had had a really bad experience with crabs on a previous shoot, and so Fred just talks about how sweet Sid Haig was, for how like rough and tough he could look on screen. He was, I guess, a very sweet man who didn't enjoy crabs. So I've already got my money's worth out of here. It was a gift. So that's a book that I'm really enjoying reading.
So, by the way, Terminal Force is from 1989, the one that I just held up.
Oh.
You picked up Terminal Force. I also have that one. That's from 1995. It's also called Galaxis.
Yes.
And that is not, it's not Fred Olin Ray, from what I understand. That is
no, it's not
the Galaxis that has Brigitte Nielsen in the lead role and has a tiny role for Sam Raimi.
Yes,
Sam Raimi's just in it a little bit, and Richard Mole is in that.
Yeah, and he reprises his role in the second one, even though the second one wasn't originally a Terminal Force movie. It was called something else.
That's another episode entirely.
Yeah, and I can't tell you anymore because it's all in German on my release. So,
oh, you got the German. I just got the regular DVD here somewhere.
Does it have 1 and 2?
It just has has one.
That's why I bought the German one.
Oh shit! Now, all right, I'm gonna be searching through eBay tonight.
I do have a second book, and it's a little more lighter reading because I got Murder, She Cooked. It's the Cabot Cove cookbook. So this is a book written by a mega fan of Murder, She Wrote, and it features recipes from guest stars of the series. And they cite the episodes, and then they have the recipes. Like Yvonne DiCarlo's salmon salad is in here. I mean, they talk a little bit about each episode, and then they break down Jackie Cooper's curried eggs and macaroni. So I'm really excited about how
That's
weird
amazing.
This is.
That's amazing.
And for Sarah and I to have a Murder, She Wrote dinner party. So that's another book that I wanted to plug up top.
Amazing.
Whew, okay, got a little lightheaded from that future Terminal Force conversation.
There's a lot of Terminal Force. That's people did not even realize the Terminal Force discourse was coming in this episode.
They're like, I thought,
a little bonus.
I thought they were going to talk Hawk Jones. Next up is games. Are you playing any games? I know you have children. I know that.
I unfortunately have not been playing any games. I hate to say it. I normally do play some sports games with my son, and sometimes we have done that a little bit. We'll play NBA 2K, the most recent one. But he's, if he comes home and he gets his homework done and does all that, then he will play either a little Minecraft with his sister, or he plays Fortnite with some of his buddies from school. So as soon as he found Fortnite, that has been all he likes to do.
Yeah.
So my game time is very limited.
Yeah, my friend's son is very much the same, and they play sometimes next to where he's on a headset playing with me on video games, and so I can just hear them be like back to back, da, 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 da," and they're yelling out
Oh
there
yeah.
all
Oh
that
my
stuff.
God. He's always yelling
Yeah,
and talking to his buddies, and
they're
they were
still
kind of
cute.
getting mad at each other the other night. So it's finally like, okay, I think we're
I
good.
think we're
I think
done.
we can just
Yes.
cut it. I think we can just cut it. We're getting upset over games. I think we can just cut it.
Right. You and your death
Yeah.
squad can get back together another day.
Right. That are all wearing the skins of famous,
Yes.
characters. I'm like, oh my Lord.
Oh wow.
All right.
I'm currently playing Dead Island 2, which is
Oh,
it's a
I
free.
love the first one.
Yeah, so the second one, not on an island, weirdly, but takes place in LA. They call it Hell A. Very funny.
Mm.
And it was free on the Xbox, so I was like, yeah, we'll just check this out in between other games. And it has been really fun to run around. And my favorite thing to do is shoot the legs off the zombies.
I'm gonna have to download that. I love the first one so much.
It's such a great, pointless, like if you die, there's no problem. It just respawns you like an arcade game. So like, who cares? And
That's exactly what I want.
yeah.
I don't want to have to I don't want to think too much. I
No,
just want
I
to,
don't want to stress. I have too much resources all the time, which is a perfect game. Like I hate the games where you're like, I could upgrade this if I had more adhesive, but like this, you're just flush with all the
I
crap.
gotta go around and find more adhesive
Yeah,
in this open landscape.
everything I open, it just throws back on the ground because I have too much already. So I'm like, this is great. This is designed really well. Nothing's been too challenging, but it's also enough that it's exciting when you're exploring and you go, oh no, it's the guy that just has arm bones that he stabs you with. And so it's
Yeah, I definitely will have to do that. I'll have to make some time for that.
it's fun and free. I mean, who could complain? Which brings us to music.
I could complain, but I'm not going to.
This is taking up all the space on my Xbox because it's free. Anything you're currently listening to, and I know you are.
I always got some new records,
Yes.
so I'm gonna show you some of the newer stuff, and I really do try to keep it to the newest stuff that I bought.
Same.
So there'll be something weird in here but I just happen to have just bought it.
Okay.
But anyway, this is the new Topographies record, Interior Spring. If you listen to it, my favorite joke, and I say it to like both my daughter and my wife, is I go, hey, when I put it on, I'm like, would it surprise you to learn that a founding member of The Cure's son is the leader of this band?
Oh, okay.
And they're like, yeah, you've told me that many times, but it always but it makes me laugh because I'm like, it's a great record. Don't get me wrong. Love this record is terrific. The first record was also really good. This is the newer one, Interior Spring. They're very good. It's Gray Tolhurst. It's his band, their Bay Area group. And it sounds like, yeah, if your dad was in The Cure, that makes a lot of sense. That tracks.
Okay. I'll check it out for sure.
Yeah, that's very good. Now, in our podcast, over the summer, we talked about Dead End Drive-In. So that has an incredible soundtrack, which is not available. So what am I doing? I'm slowly but surely getting all the records from the bands that are on the soundtrack. And I'm starting here with Machinations Big Music.
Wow.
And this is some kind of radio station copy from Amherst College, actually. So for all you that went to Amherst and were a DJ on WAMH, hey, I have your record. Anyway, it has My Heart's on Fire, which is just an awesome song.
Yep.
That starts side 2, and so I put it on side 2, and then I go over to side 1. Anyway, it's really a good record. Like the Machinations, essentially, are a band I had not heard of outside of having seen Dead End Drive-In. But this past time when we talked about it and I watched it several times, I was just like, God, the music in here is so damn good.
Mm-hmm.
So I've just been picking up bands and their records.
Nice.
Slowly but surely, it's all out there. Got the new EP from Night Sins.
Oh, yeah. You told me about this.
Silver Blade and Silver Blade in the Shadow. And what's funny is that my brother, my co-host, and I did not talk about the fact that we both ordered this, but I saw that he had the shirt of this, and I have it too. So we both ordered the exact same thing.
I love it.
The shirt and EP combo. But this is really, really good. It's just a 5-track EP. Excellent stuff. I love Night Sins. They're from, I think, Philadelphia. But they're terrific. And I saw them live earlier this year, and they were fantastic. And then lastly, I took my daughter and we went off to a place nearby called CD Trader. It's in Los Angeles. I think it's in Encino. Maybe I have that wrong. But anyway, it's not far from it. It's in the San Fernando Valley, wherein we live as well. So it's not that far. And so I went over there. You can buy movies. So I bought a bunch of movies there. They also have records. And so you can get a whole bunch of stuff there. It's a great store. So what did I pick up? I picked up Joey Scarberry, because he does America's Greatest Hero theme song. And that's what this album is. It was $5. And I used to have this on a 45 when I was a kid. So the theme from The Greatest American Hero. So I put this on and rocked out to Greatest American Hero and sang it out loud while my kids were trying to watch TV, and they were like unmoved. But
in elementary school, my friend Aaron and I used to lay on the swings, how you lay on your chest or stomach,
oh, sure,
pretend we were flying, and we'd sing The Greatest American Hero. Yeah. No, wait, that's G.I. Joe. But
that's G.I. Joe, but I love where your head's at.
But we would sing.
I'd love if you did that as a kid. That would make a lot of sense.
No, wait. I used to know it.
Believe it or not, I'm walking on air. That's
the one. That's the one. Thank you. That's what we used to sing rather than Superman, which says a lot about who we were as children. But.
Now, if you're going to follow up and ask, Ryan, how's the rest of Joey Scarberry's album? I don't have an answer for you. I have only listened to that first track, and I immediately take the record off as soon as that track is done. That's what I bought it for.
That's fair.
There might be some gold in that record, and maybe one day I'll listen to the rest. But for right now, I spent $5 on it to just simply listen to the theme song, and that's what I'm doing.
All right.
Look at what's happened to me. I can't believe it myself. Suddenly I'm up on top of the world. It should have been somebody else. Believe it or not, I'm walking on air. I never thought I could feel so free. Flying away on a wing and a prayer. Who could it be? Believe it or not, it's just me.
Money well spent then for $5.
Hey, I feel good about it.
Perfect.
That's all that matters. It was my money.
It's my money. Joey, it's mine.
I showed my wife and I was like, "Hey, check it out." She's like, "Great."
Oh, our wives react similarly to more physical media in the home.
Oh my God. She could not care less. So she does enjoy a lot of the records. So
let's see. I've got The Coldfield. I have a new album called Alive, which is it's like dark wave meets shoegaze. It's something that
nice.
If you're not aware of The Coldfield, then definitely check them out.
Coldfield, okay.
Leathers put out an album called Ultraviolet. It's Shannon Hemmett from the band Actors. It's more like electro, kind of new wave, a little bit poppy. Sometimes when I need a little change up in pace, that's nice. So that's Leathers, Ultraviolet. And then the last one is Mike Paradinis, who is Musique, put out an album called Rush. So he put a new album out called Grush. Of course, you can buy all the albums now. Like, they come out on vinyl with a T-shirt.
Is Coldfield from South Africa?
No, The Coldfield.
Oh, got it. Okay. Oops. That's what
So
happens when you start looking things up in real time,
Right.
everybody.
So Music put out Grush, and then the thing that they had was you get the album, you get the shirt, and it came with a cassette that he had mixed the tracks of. And I'm now back into cassettes and Walkmans and stuff. So I was like, yep, give me that whole setup. And
Mm-hmm.
the album's really good. It's like a mixture of his like 90s stuff, which for people that might not know who he was like along the lines of like Tom Jenkins or Square Pusher or like Richard James, Aphex Twin. These three people were kind of doing a lot of stuff with like
Yeah.
ambient.
DJ Shadow might be even not quite. He's a little
Yeah.
weirder than that, but you could
Yeah.
throw that in there just if
Yeah.
that's something that people have heard of.
Touchstone, yeah, Uncle.
He's
I
more of
mean,
like a trippier kind of version of that. I was obsessed with him, and I have a couple of his records. I
Yeah.
love music.
I
Yeah.
love his early albums a lot.
Oh, yeah.
And
Yeah.
then kind of in the middle, I kind of fell off a bunch of bands and artists. And then I came back around this last couple years with or probably 2010 when he did like Chewed Corners. And then I just was like, wait a second. And I love all this stuff. And because it's just like some of the
Mhm.
Aphex Twin, like jungly or drum and bass stuff. I'm like, I can't get enough of this. But yeah,
Gonna check that out.
that's my comfort watches. It's totally in
Oh.
line with like the change of heading towards fall where I start to listen to way more like Cocteau Twins and like Autechre and things like that. But I'm running
Yeah.
on schedule, so things are going well.
Another band that I just got into too, and I don't have a record because they didn't sell one, is a band called Mo Dottie. Which is an LA band, and they are sort of a mixture of like Lush and Cocteau Twins.
Okay.
So I wanted to just bring them up because I was like, I think you might like them.
Yeah.
And I would start with their EP called Blurring, which they put out in 2020. They're relatively new. They got a new album that's coming out, which I've pre-ordered. I've just been listening to this at work. I've been listening to their EP like just, again and again. So Mo Dottie's,
Can you spell that for me?
yeah, M-O,
Yep.
second word, D-O-T-T-I.
Oh yeah, I would have not got that. Okay.
Yep, Mo Dottie. Check them out. I really, really dig their EP and the single, at least, of their new album. Haven't heard the rest of it, obviously, because it's not released, but they put out the single, and the single was what caught me. So I was like, okay, I'm going to go back through this band. And it seems like they just kind of came out just in 2020 and have only put out a few releases, but I like what I'm hearing.
Okay.
So
Mo
love finding a
Dottie.
band that's just on the
Yes.
in the beginning,
Yeah, I hate finding one where they're like, "Oh, we broke up today," and I'm like, "Oh,
Yeah, right,
cool,
right.
cool."
All right. Or a band that's like, oh yeah, we've got like 13 records. And you're like, well, that's cool that I have that much to go through, but
Yes.
it's like I'm gonna have to go through
Oh.
13 records to make sure I like everything,
Perfect. Well, that brings us on to TV. Anything you're watching episodic?
Episodic. We watched Star Wars Acolyte, The Acolyte, which is we watched and then literally as soon as we finished it, they were like, no season 2.
Yeah.
Canceled. So I had to tell our daughter, like on the way to school, I was like, oh, by the way, they canceled season 2. And she was like, no. And I'm like, yeah. She's like, why? I'm like, not enough people watched it, I guess. So it's that. And everybody was complaining about it. And I don't know what Star Wars fans want. I don't know what you guys want.
I don't
It was
either.
fine. It was perfectly fine. I enjoyed it. It was enjoyable. I don't know what you guys want. What do you guys want?
Do they know?
I don't know. There's a lot of cool fights with people with laser swords. I don't know. I thought that was part of the attraction.
Yeah.
What do I know? Yeah, I did. I enjoyed it. And oh well, we have one season. So if you want to check out one season, a lot of the episodes are like half an hour to 40 minutes.
Yeah.
So, and it kind of goes backward, back to back, and sort of it's almost like a very continuous narrative. And I thought it was very, very good.
Mm.
So I don't know.
Wow.
I don't know what people were looking for. And it has the main guy from Squid Game.
Squid?
What's that?
Is it Squid?
Yeah, Squid.
I didn't see Squid Game.
Squiddy. Well,
Squidward.
if you didn't,
Squidward?
Squidward from
SpongeBob.
SpongeBob SquarePants. Yeah, I think that actor is really, really good, and his name is escaping me at the moment. But he like learned English to do this show, and he's
Ah.
great in it. But he's amazing in Squid Game as well. Yeah, so many good people. It's a very, very good series, and everybody poo-pooed it and didn't watch it, and I don't know.
You know, that's why I don't watch a lot of TV because they just cancel things all the time and nothing ever ends. And I want something to end, which is why I like movies. And I usually,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know, that's how it works for me. The thing that I've been watching episodically, and it's usually right before our bedtime just to shut our brains off, is a show called Triple Threat. No one needs to write
Oh
this
yeah.
down, but it's on the Food Network. And Bobby
Uh-huh.
Flay has
Mhm.
3 chefs. It's like all of these competition shows, it's just competition. I don't know why they rebrand them because nobody cares. And all they're doing is
Yeah.
making up really dumb stuff. Like in this one, they're like, here's my 3 Titans. And they all see like different symbols, like they're the Batman. And then they show up at Bobby Flay's secret studio, which is just Food Network. And then
Sure.
the chef shows up and they have to know a secret word to get through the door. And then if they beat the chefs, then they get their name on a locker, which makes no sense whatsoever. Like, what are you going to keep in this Bobby Flay locker? It's just so,
Secrets.
yeah, it's so ridiculous. And I put it on and just cackled to myself. And then I asked my wife, like, okay, what would you do if you got chocolate and halibut? And then she's like, comes up with a dish that she would do. And then we watch what the chefs do. So that's been a fun little distraction. And
I enjoy a lot of Food Network stuff, and a lot of, like, again, if we're just putting stuff on with the kids,
Yeah.
it's like that's the easy stuff for me to just throw on because it's, you can easily watch it with your children, and there's not going to be something too crazy going on. Unless sometimes you watch it on Hulu, which I watch things on, and we get the commercials, and then the commercials are like, hymns. And my
Right.
son's been like, "What are hymns?" I'm like, it's just something guys need, and I'll explain that to you later.
well, it's not cake. And we're watching Is It Cake? So,
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense why they put some of those commercials
Yeah.
in there. I'm like, I don't. But anyway, but I would throw on Beat Bobby Flay all the time,
mhm,
and like nobody ever beats him. And so,
yeah.
so my wife's like, "Please don't put Bobby Flay on. Please don't. I don't want to watch someone lose to him again."
Yeah, he's like, what can I say? I make a killer meatloaf with ancho chili powder.
Yeah, he's very good. I mean, there's no doubt about it. But yeah, this one, that sounds interesting. Triple Threat. Maybe I could sneak that one in
It's really
And-
silly.
because it doesn't have Bobby Flay's name on the title. Maybe.
Well, it does. He hosts it, but he's not cooking.
Right, but it doesn't say. Is it Triple Threat with Bobby Flay? Is
Yeah,
that what it's called?
yeah, but all
Oh,
he
okay.
does is he's like, he asks you the secret word through the door, and then at one point he'll like walk through while people are cooking, and he's like, "Can I taste that gravy?" That's basically the whole thing he
Oh.
does. He's like, "Oh, my Titans are nervous," and I'm like, "No, they're not really." Whatever.
Can I taste your gravy?
Yeah.
I'm not making a gravy. He's like, well, you better start making a gravy because I want to taste it. So you better hurry up. This won't go. The gravy won't go with this dish. I don't care if it goes with anything. I just want to taste. You better hurry up and make a gravy and let me taste
That's how I keep my skin this supple. I'm gravy powered.
it. Little known secret. Great skincare. Just constantly sip gravy.
My real name is actually Bobby Gravy, but we changed it when we started television and changed it to Bobby Flay.
Bobby, be Bobby Gravy. Play. Ah. Can we go again?
Oh, okay.
Ah.
Well, there you go. Time to get serious as we talk about movies we've seen recently. Ryan, what
Sure.
have you been watching?
I've been really watching a lot for the podcast, and like I said, we had that commentary episode, so I had to watch that movie a lot. I watched the movies we talked about on the show quite
Yeah.
a few times, trying to prepare for the episode. So I haven't really watched anything too wild. I did watch 2020 Texas Gladiators again because I got the 4K.
You got the right cut.
And got the right cut. So of course, I literally put it on one night. I will tell you this. I put it on one night because I always put on movies at night, and I
Mhm.
try to put on something before I go to bed. And so I put it on at night, and I was like, well, I do kind of know this movie. I watched it, so I'm just going to turn on to see how it is, see what it looks like. I'll probably fall asleep. I'll watch the whole thing.
Yeah.
Uh, I just stayed up late watching it. No
Yep.
movie I'd already watched, but it was great.
I did the same thing.
It's amazing how much more sense it made.
Yes, right?
It was like, oh, this makes a lot of
Mhm.
sense now. When they chopped it up, and I know they're chopping out certain grotesque things,
Mm.
but they cut out some other things. And I only think it's like the cut's only like maybe 5 minutes less.
Yeah, I think so.
And what they chopped out was it making any cohesive sense.
Yeah.
It just, you know, when I watched it before, I was like, oh, well, I like this. This is pretty good. It's pretty weird and Italian, and I like that. So that's cool. And then I watched it again. I was like, oh, actually, no, this makes a lot of sense now. Why did it not make sense before?
I don't know.
Which is why I also said I can't get rid of this other copy, because now I got to watch that again
yes,
just to
compare.
see why this doesn't make any sense.
Well, I watched
Anyway.
that old copy that I have like 2 of or 3, and I was like, this isn't what I remember seeing. And you know the whole thing with the Texas Chainsaw Massacre where people see stuff that's not actually in the movie. I was like, no, I saw where the lady slits her throat and all this orange blood pours out. And then when
It's there.
I watched it, I was like, this isn't here. And then I remember being just grimier and me feeling like I was watching something dangerous, you know, when you're a kid. And then when the new Blu-ray came out, I was like, no, this is it. This is what I remember seeing. Like, yeah.
Yeah. It's amazing too. Like, I mean, it does. There's something to watching, you know, even a really kind of bad movie. And I'm not saying 2020 Texas Gladiators is a bad movie, but when you watch a bad movie, but it's all been cleaned up, and you've only watched like a, you know, a crappy,
Yeah.
you know, VHS rip on whatever streaming service you've seen it on before, and all of a sudden you see it all cleaned up and, you know, looking exactly like right and color timed and the whole thing, and all of a sudden you're watching and you're like, well, this looks like a brand new movie.
Yeah.
And it looks fantastic. I will say the price point on the 4K was a little steep, but like worth it, I think, in the end, because it looks so good.
Yeah.
And my DVD didn't look bad, but again, it was just cut
It's
and
soft.
it didn't.
Yeah.
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 So
And
there's a huge difference.
the story of how that movie exists is on the one that you bought, and that supplement is amazing to see these people that we now know from, you know, making Italian films that we know and love, and then they're talking like about how this thing was not a movie, then cobbled together, and then different people directed different things, and you just go,
yeah,
that really says a lot. Like it's a I really enjoy.
I always
enjoy
love hearing George Eastman kind of go off, because that guy, that's his American name, not his actual name.
Yeah.
He's so brutally honest. Like, he does not hold anything back in interviews.
No.
He does not try to soften anything. And I love that about him. He's just very frank.
Yeah. So is Sawavi. Is that saying the right last name correct? On there, also great. And I think that's the one that Greta's also on. She's got a little
She has
bit.
her own, she has her own separate interview.
Yeah.
Greta.
Yeah, totally worth it.
Yeah. No, the supplemental stuff is very good. I enjoyed that. I did watch that finally as well. It's a good stuff. It's a good disc. And then I've been dipping into different things. I always go through Kicks where I watch all the Burt Reynolds movies.
Sure.
So I suddenly found myself in that, because I
Cop
found
and a
myself
half?
not yet, but I had a bunch of stuff that I got from Kino Lorber. So I have like a little section up there that's Burt. And then I got the box of Burt from a while ago from Umbrella, and I hadn't watched some of it. So I was like, okay. So I put in Stroker Ace, and I watched Cannonball Run.
Classics.
I watched Hooper,
Yep.
which is not in the collection. That was streaming. That's a separate one, because that was Warner Brothers. Hooper was incredibly good, and I had not seen that one in forever. Stroker Ace, not a good movie, but not as bad as I thought. But there's a scene where like he gets Lonnie Anderson drunk. It's a whole thing where she won't drink in front of him because they're having a professional relationship. But then he says, "Oh, this is alcohol-free champagne," and then she goes, "Oh, there's no such thing," and she gets drunk, and then they're about to like, you know, get down and dirty, and she passes out on the bed. And then there's like a locked shot where you see her laying down on the bed, and you just see Bert keeps coming into frame and being like, well, I should leave you, but I don't know, maybe, did you want me to stay? Or anyway, and he starts like trying to find ways to then like lay on the bed, and then like unbuttons her blouse, and he's like, no, I shouldn't. And then he walks away, and then he comes back in.
Oh, no.
And it's like that for like 5 minutes. And I'm like, this is not great.
No. I don't like this.
I don't, and I'm like, and I'm sure they were all just like behind the camera, like, trying to stifle laughter, and I'm like, this is not good, guys.
No.
This is in fact a very bad look.
Yeah.
And I realize it's the 80s and it's a different time, but I was like, dang. That said, of course, I followed it up with Cannibal Run, which is filled with moments that you're like, well,
Yeah. Yep.
that didn't age well at all. You know,
No, we
like
had
it
both
just
of those in the video store, and he was actually one of those actors that, because I was a kid, I just didn't understand. Like, I watch it, and the adults are like, "This is Burt Reynolds." I mean, everyone thinks he's so like manly. I don't know what the '80s term was for that, but I was just like, I don't get it. He's like a mustached dude who doesn't seem like he's like Arnold Schwarzenegger. Like, what? Why do you guys care about this guy? But like, it was a generational thing.
I just think when I was a kid, he was just a huge movie star.
Yeah, he was
And
everywhere.
He still is like one of the like last massive
Mhm.
movie stars, which lasted for 2 decades.
Yeah.
And certainly in the 80s, and he's in Stroker Ace in that period, he's declining. And he's also making very bad decisions. And because of course he turned down Terms of Endearment,
Mhm.
a part that was written for him, so he could do Stroker Ace,
Oof.
which his friend Hal Needham directed. And he was like, well, I told him I would do it, so I got to do that. So I'm going to turn him down, and then the part goes to Jack Nicholson and he wins the Academy Award. So terrible mistake
Yeah.
on Burt Reynolds' part. And it's a part, and to be fair, he said he regretted that for, a lot of his life. And he made fun of himself for doing it. But he just makes some real bad choices.
Mhm.
He starts going a pretty tricky road in the 90s. It gets pretty dicey. And I also then watched one of a trilogy that I'm now watching, a movie called Hard Time. He did a trilogy of these movies because what people don't understand is that he did Boogie Nights and he hated it. And he hated working for Paul Thomas Anderson. And he was like, this guy's an idiot. And I hate this movie and I don't like it. And where did he cash in on? He cashed in on a series of TV movies. He did a trilogy of TV movies. Hard Time, the first one is one he directed. And it also has Charles Durning, and they play two elderly cops. And they shot these things back to back. This is what he cashed in. Like,
Wow.
he could have done anything. He had an Academy Award nomination for Boogie Nights. And the way he cashed in is he did that. He also did Mystery Alaska, which is a Disney movie.
Mm.
It was like, you had everything.
Yeah.
There's so many times in his life where he had everything going and he just was like, nah, I'm going to do this. And to be fair, he at least got a lot of his buddies employed. Hal Needham does the third Hard Time movie. It's one of his final movies. So, I mean, he's trying to get all his buddies work, and he got a bunch of money to do it for TNT. But I'm like, it's just, I'm endlessly fascinated by that. I
Mhm.
just find that so fascinating that anybody could be in that position, that they would make such, even to his own admission, terrible choices.
Yeah.
That's why he's a guy that fascinates me. And I will close out and hand it all over to you, in that I just got the Police Academy collection.
Yes.
So I
Yes.
rewatched the first two of these because my brother had mentioned like that we might do a ranking on it. So
Oh, rad. Yeah. I bought it for $8.
Neil Israel, who co-wrote the first movie,
Mhm.
he directed a movie for New World called Combat Academy, or aka Combat High.
Okay.
Early movie with George Clooney, as a matter of fact, that was on TV, and then New World released it on video. And so when I brought that movie up, we were throwing around movies we might do for the podcast. He was like, "Oh yeah, didn't that guy like write one of the Police Academies?" I was like, "Yeah." He's like, could we do a whole ranking of Police Academy movies?" And I'm like, "Yeah. I mean, it's I guess it's adjacent enough, but." So I got this in advance, kind of going, I haven't seen these movies in a long time.
No,
So
yeah,
I was like, okay. And of course, we watched these movies many times as kids.
Same.
But anyway, so first two in, and I'm like, okay, yeah, these are
Yeah.
kind of what I remember. I'm waiting for it to really fall off a cliff, but we'll see what happens.
Oh, it happens. Okay, I have a couple new ones to talk about. Oddity from 2024. I don't know if you've seen that one yet, but it's directed by Damian McCarthy, who did Caveat.
I'm watching all these Burt Reynolds and Police
Right,
Academy
right,
movies.
I'm
I'm
sorry.
a little busy to watch new stuff, Dirk.
Okay, well, in October, maybe you'll have a chance.
I'm watching Essential Cinema. I cannot keep up with this new stuff.
Well, this movie, I say go in blind, don't watch trailer or anything. I think it's one of the best put together horror films I've seen this year. Because I love in movies where, I mean, we watch a ton of this stuff. So you see like she has a camera she sets down that takes a picture every 30 seconds. As an audience, we go, okay, this is going to be a gag or a bit. And it lays these breadcrumbs out so well and has payoffs for things in ways that you don't expect it to. The film turns its focus in ways that I just thought was really interesting and not like it's just suddenly about something different where they're like, here's a twist. And you're like, well, how was I supposed to? Like, it's
Right.
very interesting how it's shot. I think it's acted really well. So, Oddity really caught me off guard. I lucked out and knew nothing
Cool.
about it. Also, this year, Humanist Vampire Seeking Consenting Suicidal Person. It's a French film directed by Ariane Louis Siez. A young woman can't kill to fill her need for blood until she meets a suicidal boy. It's a cute little vampire tale. If you want something that's like not shocking but puts you in the mood for October, that's a really good French film. I know sometimes in the States we don't watch French films, so I wanted to throw that out. Also, the Vordelak movie, I watched that. I got a big kick out of it. Also French. The King Tide from 2023, directed by Christian Sparks. It's a small island where the mayor finds a baby in the ocean that may or may not have mystical powers, and where
Hmm.
it goes is I won't spoil it, but kind of grim maybe. And The King Tide, this is another film that's like really well made, really well put together. It's English. I just haven't heard anyone talk about it because it doesn't have any names, and I don't know.
Hmm.
It's
Hmm.
not getting any push. It's not on when you scroll through Amazon like new movies that are sponsored now.
Hmm.
It doesn't have a lot of money behind it, but I thought when it got to the ending of the film, I was like, well done. I did not see this coming, so I want to throw The King Tide out there.
Cool.
Next up, oh my gosh. Okay, Limbo from 2021, directed by Soi Chung. I'm really bad with pronunciation on like Hong Kong actors and directors, so I always apologize for that. It's the liaison of letters. I'm better with French, not great with Chinese, but he directed Motorway, Twilight of the Warriors. Walden is like his newest one. He's a really good director. This is a black and white film about two cops chasing a brutal serial killer, and it is absolutely stunning to watch. It is
Hmm.
so gorgeous, and it's okay. I was trying to figure out how I was going to word this because it is a beautifully shot film that it's been a long time since I watched something and had to walk it off. And this movie
Oh.
is so unrelentingly just committed to punishing characters that it's just like there's no respite except for the beautiful cinematography. So I
Huh.
was like completely wrapped up in this thing that I put on and I was like, yeah, I'll maybe do something. And then I stopped doing anything and I was just watching this film. Hong Kong is just this trash filled city. It's just crazy, this the way that this thing exists. And the cops have a situation going on. I don't want to spoil any of the story. I know people might be put off by the black and whiteness of it, but it is so beautiful to
Oh.
see.
I thought you were going to say the grisliness of it or the intensity because
Well, the grisliness and
I'll watch a black and white
intensity,
movie any day. I don't have a
yeah,
problem with that.
yeah. It's just I haven't seen something like this that you just feel like the person making it was like, no, this is the story that we're telling. Nobody softened any corners for this thing, and
Cool.
yeah, it ended, and I just had to go for a walk outside and just be like in life again. And I love that. That's what got me like back into movies numerous times after falling out with movies, is like the early
Mm.
2000s extreme stuff. Lars von Trier kind of energy here where you're just like, come on, man. Like let the foot off their neck for a second. And yeah, it just completely blew me away. So Limbo from
Limbo.
2021.
Okay. I felt the same way after Cannonball Run. I really had to kind of like it was
Gotta
had to
take a
shake it
walk.
off.
Yeah.
It was like I mean the bloopers that happened to the credits kind of helped. It was
Yeah.
like kind of brought me back down to earth. But it was pretty intense.
I get it. Same. It's a remake, actually, I think. And then lastly, I watched Arabella Black Angel from 1989,
Okay.
which
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
have.
We were talking about that. I have not seen it yet, but I do own it. So
Okay, well, it's directed by Stelvio Massi, who's the cinematographer
right
from
there.
Fistful of Dollars. Oh, there it is. So
Hmm.
that's interesting. People are right. It's the grimiest, sleaziest giallo. Lots of nudity, sex, and violence. It is very cautionary tale of where to put scissors. And
They don't go everywhere.
Arabella Black Angel, it's what everybody said. So if you're going to watch
Okay.
it, make sure the kids are asleep and maybe your partner's nowhere near because it's not a movie you can walk in and not see a scene where you're like, I can explain what I'm watching.
Yeah. Not that you can't get it on its own, but it's the
Yeah.
Forgotten Gialli set, Volume 4.
Yeah.
So I have all those sets, and they put out a new one. So it's the 6th one.
Oh my
And
gosh.
so I've watched some of that. I'm trying to watch that and get the 5th one, which I've only watched one of those, and then I'll get to the 4th one. But I've heard like everything in that set is of that same kind
Oh
of era.
wow.
Like it's like the set that's pretty grimy.
Yeah.
Like I think it was the Forgotten Gialli set 2 is kind of a lot of ones that are like that are produced by Dick Randall, who's like an American who went overseas, and he just kind of did a lot of like they're just sleazy exploitation-y
Sure.
kind of stuff. They're not like that's the one where they have like a French sex murderers, if you've seen that one, and that's the one that it has a Humphrey Bogart impersonator in it, and he's the main character. Uh, but those are like more kind of silly,
Yeah.
and
This is
you
not
know they're
that.
sleazy, but they're not like sleazy in like a really like
Mhm.
nasty way. But I've heard that about that 4th one, so it's kind of why I'm like I gotta be ready for that.
Yeah.
So I haven't watched it because I'm kind of like I'll get there.
Yeah, I mean, it's well made, it's well shot. It's just the content, you're just like, wow, okay, I'm lucky that everyone's sleeping because this is
Yeah,
woof.
yeah, that's the part stuff.
Let me ask you a question. What would Cafe Flesh be without Tantala Ray? What would Slumber Party 2 Massacre be without Atanas Illich? What would Electric Dragon 8000 Volts be without Tadanobu Asano? The answer? They wouldn't be the same, because you need that certain flavor. That's like food without Marshall's hot sauce. For 14 years, chef, teacher, and cookbook author Sarah Marshall has been making delicious and flavorful sauces in small batches by hand. Every bottle of Marshall's hot sauce is prepared by Sarah. You can elevate every meal with the help of an actual chef who is using the freshest produce and the highest quality ingredients. Plus, she now has launched a seasoning line taking actual produce, dehydrating and freeze drying them, and powdering them to make delicious seasonings without chemicals or binders. There's even more at marshallshotsauce.com. That's Marshall's, HAUTESAUCE, from an actual hot sauce subscription, which gives you guaranteed access to limited edition sauces, to a gourmet pasta with special herb blends rolled right into the noodles. You'll find it all at marshallshotsauce.com. Enter VHS Podcast for 20% off. And now, back to the show. Which means it's time for our late return, ladies and gentlemen.
Here we go. Ooh, let's dig in.
It's time to talk 1986's Hawk Jones. So it's directed by Richard Lowry, who was 21 when this was shot in Davenport, Iowa in 1985. Written by Tor Lowry, brother, who was inspired by a Jell-O commercial where kids dressed as adults and thought, hey, this could be a movie where they do other adult things. The score and the cinematography by Richard Lowry, I think the music is really, really great. I think it fits the tone of what we're seeing, and I think it kind of makes the movie.
Yeah, because it's wall to wall. And I'm
Yes.
surprised to hear that he wrote it because I thought it was like tracks that he took from like a TV show.
You would think.
There's a couple of them that sound not exactly, but they do sound at least very inspired by Miami Vice.
Mm-hmm. I think that was intentional.
And
yeah.
I was like, oh, that's such a Miami Vice. I think if you can watch this movie, it's on the Internet Archive, and it opens with a track for the title sequence that I was so like,
yeah.
oh, let's go.
Uh-huh.
Let's go. I mean, you get the opening scene, and then you have this, which is pretty great too. But then you get that song, and it was like the music. I was like, oh hell yeah,
Yeah.
because the music it plays like hearing that they wrote it is blowing my mind. But, but just hearing that music, it feels like, oh, these guys know exactly what they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
They know exactly what they're doing. They know what's up. And this is 1986, and they were like, well, yeah, we got to put this kind of music in there.
Yeah.
And they were just like, all the shows of that era had that kind of music.
Yep.
The fact that they wrote it is just, that's wild.
Yeah.
That's wild.
It stars all kids, That's right. You heard
Yes,
that
all
correctly.
kids,
It's all
all
children.
children.
Valiant Dewhart plays Hawk Jones.
Yep.
IMDb does a lot of the cast dirty. McAllister's not even listed on IMDb. A lot of the names of the characters are just very, very vague. After being made, this film was released by a small company, and then it went out of business, and then this was repeated. So eventually the rights went back to the Lowrys. They remastered it from a beta tape that they had kept in a safe for the 25th anniversary. The Lowry brothers also have a YouTube where there's a feature-length making of, just a
Ooh,
VHS
wow.
raw material. It's like an hour and 70 minutes or something. I watched it.
The main character, the kid who plays
Yeah.
the main character, is 6 years old.
Yes.
And the guy that plays the main gangster guy is also 6 years old.
In the making of, you can see the parents helping out and stuff. It's really,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know,
They shot in the afternoons. They shot it for like months
yeah.
because they would have to shoot it and they could only shoot for a little while. So they'd probably shoot it on some weekends for like maybe 6 hours.
Yeah.
Can I read you a quote that I got? Oh, maybe
I-
I'll wait. I'll wait.
Okay,
wait.
you wait.
You go for it. You go.
Okay,
You
well,
go.
here's the synopsis. Hawk Jones is one cop fighting against a city of criminals. Now reluctantly working with a new partner, he vows to rid the city of a crime syndicate run by Antonio Coppola. Just to remind you all, they're children.
They're children. Yep. The girl plays his partner is just like chef's kiss.
Yeah.
She's just such a ball of energy.
McAllister. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm a
yeah.
big fan. So let's press play on Hawk Jones. First, we get the opening theme, which rules. We get the smoggy skyline, which permeates 80s cop action movies. They really nail the tone of what they're going for here. We learn it's Mini-tropolis, and we get headlines that a crime wave is gripping the city.
Mhm.
We see our main baddie, Antonio, who says my favorite quote of the beginning, "I'm tired of petty crimes. I want violence and destruction."
I'm tired of these petty crimes. I want violence and destruction.
He's 6.
I mean, said by a 6-year-old is pretty great. With as much conviction as a 6-year-old can muster, it really like is amazing.
I do love the line delivery from some of the kids. I don't know if that they did retakes. I feel like they were just like, "That's great, we're moving on." Like it's just some of the lines, the way they kind of like fall off of like they're maybe remembering the words or because they're children. It's just really endearing in the middle of this like hard-nosed detective story.
Yeah, I think like when you see the end credits, they have like kind of bloopers,
Yeah.
and you can see like they kind of mess up all the time. So
Yeah.
like if you get a clean one, you're probably like, okay, we got it.
We got sound on that one? Okay.
Yeah, like you can't be like, well, like for this next take, like you're just trying to get. Did we get the line? Did we get it clean? Let's move on.
Yes. A bank is robbed and the security guy comes out and he's shot. And these are children.
But you got to say, when they shoot the guns, it's amazing because
Yeah.
they have this little, and this was not easy to do. I think it's pretty much, is it shot on video? I think it's pretty much shot on video,
It was
right?
shot on
So-
I forget. I wrote down the size of tape. It was like something 1/4-inch tape. So
Yeah, so it's shot on like really nice, like professional quality videotape.
Yeah.
So it's not like your
film stock. yeah.
domestic VHS kind of stuff,
Mhm.
but still on video. Inserting this had to be kind of tricky, but they put on the end of the gun like a little like bang system,
Mhm.
like a sort of like Batman or 1960s Batman kapow or whatever, but
Yes.
just over the barrel every time they're shooting, which that was pretty good stuff back
Yeah.
then, you know?
Yeah. It's pow, bang, that kind
Yeah,
of stuff
so
flashing over
it
the
makes
muzzle.
it a little cartoony, but nonetheless, there's some good action in this.
Yes. We see kid firefighters, and the town hires a PI, which is Hawk Jones. We next see a cop named Gunner mocks Hawk, and then we see Hawk talk to the captain, who's eating Tostinos and taking Alka-Seltzer, which is
Hmm.
perfect.
And he's got this great fake mustache. It's amazing.
Honk, you may or may not know it, but there's war going on out there. I'm familiar with it, Chief.
How many arrests have you made this week?
You mean including the rest at the barber shop?
Including the barber shop.
One.
Also, kids do everything in this movie. They're driving, they're doing all kinds of stuff we'll talk about, but they can't grow facial hair, so the facial hair is just stuck on their faces for some of them, and it's perfect every single time. Hawk thinks it's Antonio, but the captain says he's an upstanding guy. He comes to all the cops' balls. So Hawk is given a partner, McAllister, and Hawk isn't excited about having a partner, especially a girl. Because he's 6.
The answer for today, you have a partner. A partner?
Bring in McAllister.
No, that's out of the question. I work alone.
You don't have any say in this matter, Hawk. Meet your new partner.
A bride? The name's McAllister, Turkey.
You two work out somewhere else. I got work to do.
I don't like this one bit.
Hawk, you're on thin ice. So watch where you skate.
Next, we see Hawk drive a car, which never gets old for me. Every single time in the movie that a kid is driving, I was like, this is great. I love this. We get a full shootout with a guy robbing a store, and just prior to that, I love that the robber asks for $100 because he's 6.
Yep.
And then we see a kid
Yeah.
smoking a pipe, and I was like, this could not be made now. But I love that they did it in 1985. The robber runs, and Hawk follows, but he gets caught. Luckily, McAllister's there and saves him, and he begrudgingly accepts the saving by McAllister. And we next see a crime meeting and meet Antonio's girl as Antonio cleans his gun. And I was like, I've never seen a child clean a gun before. This is exciting.
I've seen the kid do a lot of this stuff.
Yeah. Oh, man.
I think some of my favorite parts of this movie is just watching kids in the background
Yes.
just pretend to do adult stuff. I
Yeah.
think there's some great use of that.
Oh.
They do a really good job of actually filling the frame with other stuff.
Yeah, the henchmen are really great. The robber is brought in by the police, but the cops say he's clamped tighter than a kid's first day at the dentist.
Nah, he's clammed up tighter than a kid's first day at the dentist.
Just great cop speak for children. Hawk says he works alone, but McAllister tails him to Antonio's where Hawk falls asleep. And then Antonio leaves the house with a cigar, which I was like, that kid's got a real cigar. Amazing.
Yeah. Kid who plays the chief is so good.
Oh, yeah, he's perfect.
He's great.
Perfect.
They cast this really well. They cast from like a huge amount of kids.
Yeah.
I think they said that at first. I have something from the Rock Island Argus in 1987, and Rick Lowry said the first day of auditions we had only about 50 kids. I think parents somehow had the idea that it might be like a kiddie porn come on.
Gosh. Oh, no.
But the television news people took pictures the first day. They probably took video, but I guess they took pictures.
Mhm.
Maybe it's just for the newspaper. They took pictures the first day of auditions, and they were shown on the evening news. Parents then realized, I guess, that we were a legitimate operation, and the next day we had more than 400 kids.
Wow.
It was really quite a task picking the 80 youngsters we needed for the cast, but we finally did. Ages of the child actors range from 4 to 10.
Jeez. Yeah, well, I mean, you got to find the right kids for, like, this scene where they enter a club and there's a guy that says, "Hey, baby," to his girlfriend, so he rips up the cigarette that kid's smoking. An actual cigarette. He shreds it with his little hands.
Yeah, I mean, in 1985, you were like, hey, just hold this lit cigarette. It's not a big deal. I'm not going to have you smoke it. Just hold on to it.
So good.
It's not a problem.
Oh, my gosh.
They probably already done that for one of their parents.
Yeah. You can't open a beer with one hand sometimes. Anyway, McAllister goes around back of Antonio's house and steals some files. And then we get to watch kids in a bar make eyes at each other.
Yep.
It's such a funny scene because so many of them are just like raising their eyebrows at each other at different
Yeah.
tables. And I was like, what is,
Right.
I don't like this.
But it's so funny. I mean, it's such a ludicrous idea. and
Yeah.
but it's works so well.
That's-
It's crazy.
That's the thing I was most shocked when I found this and I was like, oh, I'm going to definitely ask Ryan to watch this. And then I was like watching it and I was like, oh, this is good. I didn't expect this. I thought
Yeah.
this something that was this difficult to track down. I was like, well, there's got to be a reason. Probably it's really hard to watch. And then I found a YouTube version first, which I sent you that and the Internet Archive, and then instantly that YouTube one was taken down. And I was
Yeah,
like,
the YouTube one did not work.
okay,
so
so
the Internet
somebody's
Archive one.
got an eye on it. It also started wrong, the YouTube one, so maybe that's why it got taken down.
But you're saying the rights reversed, so did they have the rights now? Because I'm like, how is not
I believe
Vinegar
so.
Syndrome or I think AGFA?
Yeah,
I got a
AGFA.
buddy who works for AGFA, so I'm going to see him tomorrow, I think. So I'm going to be like, why haven't you released Hawk Jones?
Yeah,
Is
because
there
they
something to that? Like, there's got to be a story, because you should have released that. Like, you should have released that 3 years ago
yeah
by now.
they
you
did
know?
a 25th anniversary release themselves, but I think that anyone that would approach them to be like, this deserves a life. Because, like, Childish Gambino wrote a song called Hawk Jones.
Right,
So people
right.
have seen this out there in the world, but it just doesn't have the respect that I think it deserves. Because I've seen it
But
a couple times now, and each time I find new things that bring me joy from it. And like I said, the music and the way that it's shot for 21-year-olds, it's really crazy. Like,
yeah,
it's
yeah.
really well done, and the different like genres of music that they're kind of putting together to make this 80s action movie, which is all kids, but like it's also, well, there's a part that we'll get to where Hawk is shooting two machine guns, one in each hand,
Mm-hmm,
around a
mm-hmm.
pillar, and I'm like, it doesn't matter, he's 6. This rules.
Yeah, it's very. I mean, it's shot on video, which I'm not always the biggest fan of,
Yeah.
but it's shot very
Yeah.
well. It looks really good, and this is like some crappy version that's on the Internet Archive. So I mean, I can
Yeah.
only imagine if you got the raw
Clean it up.
materials and try to clean it up. Obviously, it's not on film to begin with, but you could still make a good copy of that.
Mhm.
And like, why haven't they? Did they, for their 25th anniversary or whatever? What did they release, a DVD or
There was
something?
like a
I don't.
double disc I think I saw, but like their website doesn't exist. I went to it, where there
Okay.
was nothing, but I did find pictures that somebody had done a double disc release that was sold out. But I mean,
Yeah.
Agfa or somebody could do. I mean, Vinegar Syndrome did it and made it like a vinyl print of the soundtrack. If they made the music and they could release that, like, take all my
Oh yeah.
money. I'm
Yeah. I mean, I'd see, even now, I'd see TerraVision being
yeah,
somebody, because they
yep.
could release the soundtrack as well. Like,
Hmm.
you got to think Brad Henderson's seen this a million times. He probably owns a VHS of it. You know what I mean? Like,
He's got a
I don't
Hawk.
understand.
He's got a Hawk Jones back tattoo. I heard
Yeah,
it's life
exactly. I'm
size
like,
of Hawk Jones.
yeah, we're talking about something he watched probably when he was 15, and he's like been all over
Yeah,
this forever. And I'm like, how is that? So there's got to be a story, because
that has to.
I'm like, I cannot believe that this hasn't been put out.
Yeah,
Either that, or there's already plans in the works, and we're just getting ahead of it. But which I'm
yeah.
hoping for,
I would love that. Be-
because yeah, this is I just can't believe people haven't seen this. If
no,
people haven't seen this, it's wild.
in the next moment that they're in this club, Hawk approaches Antonio, who says, like, you're outnumbered. And Hawk says, I better even the score. And he beats up all of his henchmen in the club and then sits down and drinks milk out of a champagne glass. And I was like, this is one of the best things I've seen this year.
It is. It
Oh.
is. It is very good.
McAllister's then caught, but psychs a guy out. Something about a mom, I think I recall. And then Antonio says, call in the destroyer. Oh, man.
Well, you can't talk about Hop Jones's mom. That is where
Can't
that's a
do
breaking
it.
point for him.
So the captain tells him, stay away from Antonio. Then Antonio calls a meeting with the goon who makes an ex-wife joke where I was like, it's funnier because you're 6.
It's so funny because you're 6.
What's been our biggest problem? My ex-wife. Cops. Exactly. But that's all gonna change.
I think the dialogue could be very funny if you got adult actors and you kind of played it straight, and you have that music, and like,
Sure.
it's a parody, and
Yeah.
the language is pretty like generic, but very generic for the genre. So like, I think it could play, but like, it just doesn't. I mean, it's written for children. They knew
Yes.
they were going to have kids say this stuff, and they knew it was going to rule coming out of a kid's
Yes.
mouth.
Oh, man. Antonio has a device that'll melt cops, which just turns them to ash, but only if the machine knows you're a cop. Next, the destroyer
It's
arrives.
and it doesn't pay off till later, but boy, it pays off.
Next, the destroyer arrives via plane, and he's a punk rocker whose legs are so tightly chained together.
And another 6-year-old.
It's So we learn that Hawk is late on his rent now, and he goes into his apartment, and Lola's there. So we're introduced to Lola, who's a big actress, and he makes him a drink, and then they go out to dinner. But then his partner shows up at the table next to them, and that
Double date.
doesn't go well. Back in the car, Lola asks Hawk when he'll like girls, and he says, when they nail me in the old box. I was like,
What about you, Hawk? As handsome as you are, I think you'd have girls flocking over you. Still don't like girls, huh, Hawk? Females are like chocolate chip ice cream, cold and lumpy. When are you ever gonna change? The day they nail me in the old box.
Kids making jokes about their corpses is hilarious. I'm sorry.
It is. It is. No, that's a great line. It totally cracked me up when I watched that part. It's so funny. It's so stupid.
Oh, Hawk. They all argue and are asked to leave, and Hawk and Lola are tailed to a warehouse where Destroyer shows up with a massive Uzi. Some of them have small Uzis, but like Destroyer
yep.
has like just a regular giant.
Sometimes they look like toy Uzis. But this one, yeah,
Ugh.
not so much.
Destroyer knocks boxes over on Hawk. They tussle. Lola tries to intervene, and Destroyer just slaps her to the ground. Where I was like, "Whoa, didn't expect that at all." Oh man. Hopefully things work out for Lola. They don't. Hawk then manages to escape his grasp with a classic, "Hey, isn't that your mom?" And next they get trapped in a room. Hawk gets trapped in a box, and then they like speed up the film and knock him out with a lid. It's really...
Yep.
Okay, just making sure I got that right. Oh man.
Yeah.
Okay, so then they go back to McAllister's place, and Hawk says, "We all need to get some rest," and he starts taking his suit off while the two ladies watch him, and he has PJs and a sleeping cap underneath.
And it cracks them up.
They're like, "This is
Die laughing over
hilarious." And they're not wrong.
I wonder if his little suit. Also, just they dressed him up like, that's another element that you don't really think about till later. But
Yeah.
you're like, you had to get like little adult clothes for all these. Like maybe some of them had that.
Yeah.
Like, maybe they have that for like church or something like that, or they went to a wedding or they have some kind. But I didn't have a little suit when I was a kid.
No.
I wouldn't have been able to like throw that on or bring that to an audition. So they had to have actually even gotten some of those costumes for the kids.
I also love that he's 6 going on 56. Like, he's Danny Glover in Lethal Weapon. Like, he's too old for this. He's not like this spry ninja. He's like, he moves and delivers lines like he's like, "Ugh, I'm this weathered cop." Like,
Yeah, it's kind of funny to watch when you watch the end credits, because he has a moment where he giggles and he keeps laughing. The kid who plays Hawk Jones.
Mm-hmm.
And he kind of then does a big smile. Oh, Valiant Dewhart.
Yeah.
How can you forget that name? When Valiant like smiles and you're like, oh yeah, he doesn't smile like a single time in the movie or giggle or like really. They edit it so well that you don't really ever see him be childlike, and then you see him kind of like goof around and be 6, and you're like, oh yeah, and then you realize like, wow, this is a real magic trick that they pulled on this.
The only time he gets happy involves grenades.
Right. Hey, did you see the blooper where he throws the grenade over his shoulder? It's supposed to go into a bathroom stall, just completely hits the door. And I was like, oh my God, that probably took so long to do. Just that moment.
Yeah.
It's like a 2-second, edit. Probably took him like half an hour.
It's so funny. The next day, Hawk and McAllister go to the precinct while Lola watches a soap opera called The Young and the Playful, where a kid is cheating on his wife and the wife pulls a gun.
Oh, like my favorite part is when they actually have a fake... the fake soap opera on the TV, and it's also kids. I was like, wow, that's fantastic.
It's so creative.
That's amazing. Yeah, that's incredible.
Then there's someone at the door. Hawk calls to check on her, but there's no answer, so they head back to find her dying, and she dies.
Yeah. Not before she doesn't tell him a few things, though. She does talk to him about it.
She talks to him, and then they show the tape outline of her dead body on his living room floor. Children.
It's so great. It's so great.
Oh, Hawk Jones. So Hawk's taken off the case, but he also quits. So he turns in his badge and gun. And next, McAllister's picked up by the bad guy in a limo. So also, I should say, people, if you think I'm skipping things, it's not a long movie. It just does it really just clips along. So
it does, yeah.
You're not going to be sitting there going, "This is a lot of kids." They really, it's a well put together and paced film.
Does he almost quit though because of his partner? Like he doesn't want to have the partner, so he almost does he threaten to quit at that point? Because then eventually he does kind of say, "I'm out."
No, here he turns in his gun and badge and leaves. Then McAllister is picked up in the limo, and then Hawk's cleaning out his desk. and they get the call that she's been kidnapped.
Right. She's on the phone and he's like, I don't want to talk to her. And
Yeah.
then they're like, she's with some of your friends or something
Yeah.
from like, and he's,
And he's
like,
like,
oh.
"Oh."
And then he turns around and goes, oh,
Yep.
I know what that means.
Yep. So then Gunner tries to give him some guff again, so he punches Gunner out.
Quit in the force, huh? Now you're a wimp without a badge. Ooh. Gunner, I have something I always wanted to give you. What's that?
And then opens his trunk just to find loose weapons, just guns and grenades and machine guns. And then he suits up Rambo style, and complete with putting a Tootsie Pop in his mouth, which rules.
So good.
Then we get the epic shootout, cat and mouse, the grenade in the toilet. Like I said, he starts to giggle every time he throws grenades at people and they explode. In the 25th anniversary, they put real looking muzzle flashes on the guns.
Oh, okay.
And they cut all the parts where it cuts back to show that the kids are alive. So they made it even crazier. I think they even add digital ash and smoke to their cigars and cigarettes. So I haven't
kind of love the little blasts
Same.
on the end of the guns that
Same.
are like bam, bam. I'm like, I kind of love that. And I kind of love going back to the kids to kind of like, you still see their kind of,
Yeah.
not that you need to know that they're alive, but I think it's fun to see them try to pretend to play dead.
Yes.
And you know that they're not. Like, there's value there.
I agree.
It's funny.
I agree. I think it really works. No shade on those gentlemen, but there's an epic shootout. We get Hawk does a super kick. McAllister shoots the destroyer, but he doesn't die. And then they struggle on the dance floor. And this is one of the sequences where I was like, these guys really know what they're doing, because you have your main character in one area going through his struggles. You have McAllister in a separate enough thing. So the light up dance floor makes it look like a different environment. And you know all the moving pieces. So it's like, I don't know. I've seen so many action movies that had little to no budget where I'm like, who's where? What's happening? And in this, I was like, there was never a question. I was like, got it. No worries. So Hawk and Antonio sword fight. The cops are on their way. McAllister's badge gets stuck on the destroyer, so she hits the button on the machine, which then turns him into ash, which is brilliant. Again, children.
No notes.
No.
No notes.
You see his skull and everything. Like, it's,
Yeah.
I don't know.
And then all the little dust around his
Yeah.
feet, his shoes or whatever. I'm like, yeah, no, it's perfectly executed for 1985.
Yeah.
Shooting on videotape. Like, I mean, yeah, no notes. Well done.
Yeah. Hawk is unarmed and about to be stabbed, but Antonio insults his mom, so Hawk throws a knife and it kills Antonio.
Yup.
6.
It's so great.
So then McAllister and Hawk reunite, and there's one bad guy down on the ground. He draws a pistol, so Hawk draws one of his explosive arrows. I forgot to tell you he has explosive arrows, and shoots him in the mouth, which doesn't blow him up, but it makes a sound like it explodes his brain. So that happens. The captain arrives and says, "Explain yourself." So Hawk says, "They're all dead." So he gets his badge back, and he and McAllister go out for a drink, and the end.
Yeah, and the chief says, "You're one hell of a cop, Hawk Jones." It's so good.
Yeah.
It's so good.
That's Hawk Jones.
That is Hawk Jones. They took this movie and they made it. They made it in the Quad Cities, so they're from Moline, Illinois.
Yeah.
And they took it and then they shopped it in Hollywood. I have an article from the Sunday Dispatch in Moline, Illinois, and they went out to LA to try to sell it. And where did they take it? They took the movie to Hollywood and showed it to people at Disney, Columbia, and MGM Studios. And they go right to the top. And I loved hearing this because Rick tells the paper, he says, "We met a lot of people in the film industry and even got encouragement from the Disney Studio and New World Productions that they might produce our next movie."
Hawk Jones, too.
So they talked to New World.
They
talked to New World, and I don't know why New World didn't put out Hawk Jones. I was like, please tell me to put out,
Corman's like, well, there can't be breasts. They're 6 years old, so I don't know what the angle would be for this
Well,
film.
at that point in time, Corman has sold the company, so he wouldn't have had anything to do with that. But They made like this is in the era where New World Video is taking over in
Oh, see, it would have
1986.
been perfect.
They put out something that we talked about, Grunt, not Grunt the wrestling movie. I Like to Hurt People,
Mm-hmm.
which is Donald G. Jackson. And he had made that movie kind of on his own.
Mm-hmm.
And then New World gave him a little money to kind of finish it up, and then they released it on video. But he spent like almost nothing on it. And this is a movie that they spent nothing on it. They spent $50,000, I think was the total amount
Yeah.
that they put in. And so, for New World, because as soon as he did I Like to Hurt People, that's when they said, well, what else do you want to do? Here's like $100,000 or $200,000. And he went out and made Rollerblade, Donald
Mm-hmm.
G. Jackson. And eventually he makes Hell Comes to Frogtown.
Mm-hmm.
So this would have been a project where New World would have been like, you spent 50,000 on this? Let's talk. What else you got? What else you got? So I don't know where that story goes from there, but
Mm-hmm.
because I barely did a little research on this, but I'm very interested because I'm like, I don't think they put out anything else, and I don't think the New World had anything to do with them. But I love that there was the potential there.
Yeah. Yeah. Could have been. Did you have a favorite scene in Hawk Jones?
Oh God! Well, the ending,
Yeah.
you kind of breeze through
You
it, but
gotta
it's
have
like
to.
that's because you have to watch it. I think my only complaint with this movie is that it could have been even tightened up just a little bit more, even though it's very, very short. But they kind of hit some of the same beats just a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
But like just as you're kind of like, okay, because he's been off on the partner, and then he's quitting the force, and he's doing these different tropes, but like once he suits up again for the ending,
Yeah.
and you're like, oh hell yes, you know what I mean? I almost was like, I wish we got to this just a hair faster, just because it's so great.
Mm-hmm.
And believe me, I honestly had such a great time with this. I had so much fun with this. I'm so glad that you had me watch it. But the ending sequence is just like, oh hell yes.
Yeah.
This is just him going around blowing away dudes. It's
Yeah.
just like there's action in this. They shot a full, like, I mean, it's not full action, obviously, but like they're little kids, but like there's still action
Mm-hmm.
sequences. He's out there with all these weapons, shooting people, blowing people up. I mean, it's great. And
Yeah.
the ending was just like, I was like, chef's kiss.
Yeah.
It's so good. It's so good.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, this whole thing was just too much fun.
Yeah, I love also when he suits up and we're like, yes, and then he's running towards the mansion and he like trips and falls, and then it shows him like get up again, and you're like, wait, were we supposed to see that part? Like, it's so good.
Oh yeah, I had such a blast with this movie. I hate even mentioning a little nitpicking thing because I feel like it is nitpicking. Like it's such a good time. It's like it's so good, and for like guys who are just starting out. And
Yeah.
so explain to me this, because I know they're trying to sell the movie, but they don't sell it, right? So but then they hold on to the rights.
They sold it to a small company for distribution, and so they like get distribution, and then the company folds.
Okay.
So then they
Oh,
get it
okay.
back, and then they get another company to distribute it, and then that one folds, and then there was a lag time for them to get their movie back.
Got it.
Then they finally get
Okay.
it, but they're like, "What are we gonna do?" And then somebody that helped with the editing, I think, is who had the beta tape in a safe, I guess, as the story goes, and then that's what they were able to cut for the 25th anniversary.
Yeah, they have a 1989 Liberty Entertainment Group.
This is the original cut, though.
Right, okay, yeah, the one that we watched.
Yeah,
Yeah, not the anniversary one, because it had all the little
the
you know,
new stuff.
yeah, exactly.
And there's like even a part where a digital like explosion happens behind Hawk Jones. Just stuff that like, okay, if you're gonna have like a 2.0 version or something alternate on your Blu-ray, then great. But this is the version I would say people should watch because this is all the efforts they had in 1985 when they're like 21 years old, and like that kind of like ambition and scope and managing that many children. Like we both have children. 80?
Yeah.
You're gonna have 80?
Yeah. You have so many kids. It's so much wrangling. They have
What?
a very small crew. I will say, I do think, as much as I think you could have tightened things up a little, they probably wanted to have it feature length, and it is well edited. It's
Mhm.
well edited, and it's very cleanly shot. They had to have no crew. They initially were going to do this, and it was going to be a half an hour movie.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a
which would have made a lot of sense and could have been like a calling card. But I love the fact that they were like, yeah, we could, as they're writing it, I think they're like, we could probably do this as a full movie. I love that. That's a 21-year-old's ambition.
yeah,
21, 23, I think they were both at the time. And that's them. We're just going like, let's just shoot the whole movie.
yeah. There's a part in the making of where they ask one of the brothers, they're like, "What are you doing?" And he's like, "I'm gonna drive the car down the street and then drive it back." And they're like, "Okay." And then it shows, I think, Richard in like a cherry picker, like they use for electrical wires and stuff, and it's raising him up in the sky, and he's holding the little camera, and you're just like, this is so amazing to get to see, like people this passionate about an idea
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
actually following through. That's the other thing is who of us haven't that's done comedy and improv and whatnot had an idea where like that would be a great movie, and then done nothing with it.
Yeah, done zero about it.
And you're like,
Just like
this-
laughed and we're like, okay, and you let that
that's a solid concept, and they
drift
like,
out into the ether.
yes, and
Yeah, and they shot it, and also it's one of those things about watching this movie where I think it's exciting when you see certain like regionally made movies
Mhm.
where like you can tell that people really got behind it.
Mhm.
And you know, like you have that many kids, you also have that many parents who
Yes.
are kind of getting involved and interested in things. And so they had to have so many, you know, people like kind of work together to make this happen. And to get the cherry picker, to get all these different things, they probably had to call in a lot of favors. But
Mhm.
people were probably like, "Oh, sure, oh, you're shooting a little movie, like okay." And like it has that kind of spirit and that kind of where you know everyone's kind of rallying together. But I thought this was funny. This is another quote from an article I found for Rick, the director. He said, talking about how they made it. And he said, the kids were wonderful to work with, but we did have a slight problem with a few of the parents. We were even checked out once by the FBI. I don't really know why.
I think the 80 children working for
Right.
you was probably it.
That's a young 20-year-old. It's like, what's the problem? We're making a movie here.
It's a
'Cause
fake
you have-
grenade.
Right. It's just a bunch of kids like walking around with lit cigarettes and guns.
Oh, and you know Star Wars. Does she have
Right.
like Han Solo's pistol for the final shootout because
Oh yeah,
'Cause
good
it-
call. I don't know. Yeah, maybe.
it has like this little red piece of plastic at the end. It looks like it's a Star Wars gun. Like the
Oh,
other
I
guns
didn't
look
really,
like
yeah,
toy
you might be right.
replicas, but the second I saw it, I was like, I gotta ask because
Yeah, I
I'm not
didn't.
an
I didn't
expert,
take
but
note of it, but
It's
it
the one
was a little. It was late
totally
at the
toy
time.
gun. Like it's the one that is,
Mhm.
you know,
Mhm.
because it's plastic. You can clearly tell, and I think
Yeah.
it's even shooting lasers. I could be wrong, but yeah, it's I love Hawk Jones. I recommend it for anybody looking for fun, but also the consistent '80s cop music. It
The
just
music is honestly,
the
it does
tom-tom
really make
drums
the
and,
movie like it's a great soundtrack, and you
bass
are
lines.
absolutely right. Like if somebody could put this out and also release the soundtrack,
Yeah,
I mean that's a day one buy.
Yeah.
You know, like that is like I'm pre-ordering that like right away. Like
Same.
that, I'm getting the vinyl. I'm getting the Blu-ray.
If it had a
That's something.
tiny Hawk Jones doll where you pull the string and he's like, "When they nail me in the box," I'd be like, "Give me that. I want that."
Yeah.
No,
this
what'd
is
you say
such
about
a
my
fun-
mama?
Yeah, don't make fun of his mama. Don't talk about her. Oh my God. The
Which-
amount of the stuff that this kid does. Oh my God. I mean, not to say anything of, I think Carmela Rourke, that's the girl that plays McAllister.
Oh God, good.
But I mean, little Valiant Dewhart, my
Yeah.
God, he is so good. Like there is something to like the casting, and it's just they do such a good job, especially with just some of the silly henchmen and just the way some of the kids pull some of that stuff. It's like they were very deliberate. And when you have like over 500 kids show up or whatever,
Yeah.
you can kind of pick and choose. And so they really did pick kids who are like, look, they're not professional actors, they're not professional kid actors,
Yeah.
but they know they're going to get a certain quality, and they are just getting that quality for that
Yeah.
particular character. And
Gunner
it
is a specific vibe where you're like, we need a kid that you're gonna want to punch in the face, and they're
Yeah.
like, this is the kid. It's everyone
Isn't there a
gets
scene where like the gangster guy he's in the car and like he has a cigar,
Yep.
and like the cigar is like in the side of his mouth, and
Yes.
he's like, ugh.
Yeah, that happens.
Oh my
Antonio.
God, it is. Oh my God, I am gonna watch this movie again. It's really, really good.
I-
It's really, It's one of those movies I was just kicking myself that you don't have like an easier to watch version because
Yes.
I want to like call my buddies and be like, let's sit down and watch
We got
this.
to do this
You
for the next friend
know?
movie night, Hawk Jones.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Hawk Jones is like one, but that's when you have a really cleaned up version. I have like a Thursday night movie group that we watch
Mhm.
movies like over Zoom and stuff. So this is one we could potentially watch, but I'm gonna ask first and see like why hasn't anyone put this out?
Yeah. Ask your
Because
friend.
if it's coming, if someone is going to be putting this thing out, then I will hold off. But if
Yeah.
not, like I need more people to see this movie so I
Yes.
can talk about it.
Same. That's how we got here.
Yeah, that's how this is happening. No, and I hope this makes more people seek it out. I really
Yeah.
do. And this is where we go back to the beginning of the episode and we
Mhm.
talk about Carnival Magic.
Yeah.
There is an unbelievable joy that I get from watching Carnival Magic because I'm not sure. Here's the thing. I'm not 100%. They are getting the same joy that I'm getting
Mhm.
from the movie,
Yes.
but I know that the filmmakers are getting the same amount of joy from Hog Jones as
Yes.
I'm getting.
That's true.
So is it better than Carnival Magic? They're like neck and neck
I think
for my
yeah.
appearances on this podcast so far.
I think Carnival Magic is so fun because all that they intended to do is just the weirdest choices. Whereas
right,
with this,
right.
it's exactly what the directors intended
It's
to
deliberate.
be.
It's
Yeah.
incredibly deliberate.
So it's two different flavors that are great on their
Yeah,
own.
that are both incredibly good.
Yes.
But yeah, and they're both really in their own ways just lightning in a bottle.
Mhm.
Like
Exactly.
Carnival Magic, they made all these weird choices and just said, "Yep, this is it. This is what was our vision." This one, they were so deliberate of what they were doing, but it's still such magic when you think about all the kids and all the
Mhm.
wrangling, all the stuff they had to do as these young 20-something guys with no real crew and no real money. Probably asking for people to shoot in their places for free, and they can only shoot for
Yeah.
a few hours. Like, I mean, just unbelievable. They're just two movies that, like, I don't know how they pulled it off, but there's magic tricks on both of them, to pull them off.
And they were both lost for a period of time, which is interesting too. And
Yeah.
hopefully Hawk
Yeah.
Jones will get the release that Carnival Magic gets. So we'll see.
Those guys are around. I think I saw a article and looking around for stuff where Tor is like he is like a professional bowler and pool player.
Wow.
Yeah. I think if I
Okay.
have that right, unless it's a different Tor Lowry, but I saw it's a picture of him with a bowling ball, and they said he also plays pool professionally. So I don't know if they're still around. I mean, I would imagine they have the rights, and I can't imagine they'd be like, "No, we don't want to put this out." Like, how do you not want to
Yeah.
share this with more people?
Seriously.
Because they went to LA
Yeah.
showing it to Disney. Like, you guys want to put this out? And my God, if they had, imagine how amazing would that have been?
It'd be on
you know?
Disney Plus right now.
You can watch it anytime.
This or Hellraiser 2022. What do you want to watch?
Either one.
It's
Either
Disney.
one. Well, you have to watch Hellraiser 2022 on Hulu.
Oh, I thought
Which
it was
they
on
are the-
Disney Plus now.
I thought that was on Hulu.
I saw someone tweet it
Maybe.
today, so shame
Maybe.
on me for
Maybe.
not cross-checking my.
They are the primary owners of Hulu as well. So
I think
mean,
that's
it's
what
kinda,
happened. Is it's folded together.
It's through Hulu that I even have Disney Plus because you
Okay.
can add that on.
Gotcha.
So it's kind of like, and then you can think on Disney Plus, you can have Hulu be like just another section of
God,
it or whatever.
I hate how
So,
everything is.
Me too.
I'm always like, Sarah, do we need to do one of these services where it checks what we're being charged for? Because I honestly don't know how many services I'm getting through other things. Like, is my Netflix through my Amazon through my this? Like, how many times am I paying for the same? Like,
Yeah.
I don't know.
And I have Shudder through Amazon Prime.
Same.
And sometimes I'm like, I should just, because I can't watch like Joe Bob Briggs live and stuff. Sometimes I'm like, should I just like remove that from Prime and then I can get it? And I'm like, no, because then I have to have another app on the TV.
Yeah.
And then everything always logs you out. And then you have to go
Oh,
log back
don't
in
even-
again. And you
Now
have
we're
to
just
grab your laptop and
two
then you
old
have to
people
kind of.
trying to remember passwords.
It's not so much that, it's just that you always have to you have to do it on the laptop because if
Yeah.
you're going to try and do it on the TV, it's going to take you a million years to
Yep.
write in your email and the password and the whole thing. But it's like it just for some reason always keeps clicking off and you have to do it all over again. And like my kids have it on lock
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
some things are on the Xbox, some things are just on the TV, and they always remember. They're like, "Oh no, we don't have Hulu on the Xbox. We have it on the TV." I'm like, "Oh, okay." I
Yeah.
don't remember that, but okay.
I love it when I get logged out of something and it's like, you want to scan this QR code with your phone? And I'm like, I got to bring my phone into this situation. I already
Right, I
got
know. Like, what do you? Is
PlayStation
this
and
supposed to
TV
be
are involved.
convenient?
I'm like,
Why
you know
don't you
what?
just keep me logged in?
I'll just watch Pumpkinhead 2. I have it on DVD. Just
Honestly, I really like we're goofing off old man style, but like this is maybe why Netflix is like this is maybe the dumbest theory, but this is maybe why Netflix is like so popular because I never get that issue with Netflix.
right.
So that's one that I don't really remember the password because I've logged in so long ago on so
Oh,
many
yeah.
different devices and I've never been asked again to log in.
No, I wouldn't even have the email if they did. If they're like, we sent a confirmation code to your Hotmail or whatever, and I'd be like, I don't have that anymore.
Yeah,
I don't
yeah.
use Yahoo. Like, I don't.
Right. It was so long ago. And so
it
that's
was
maybe
too.
why they're because you're just like, I don't know, I can't log in on another service. I can't think about it right now.
Yeah.
So just Netflix. Netflix it is because
And I'll
you
be-
never have those issues.
I'll go, there's nothing I want to see on here, but I can't log off or sign out of it. So I guess they just have it forever. All right.
I know. I know we're in the midst of the streaming wars, but like let's claim a victor and get out of it. I mean,
The worst
There's
wars
too-
ever.
there's too many. It's the dumbest. It's terrible.
This is where the post-apocalyptic films got it all wrong. They're like, we know water will be involved, but we thought it was lack of water, but it turns out it's streams. That's what's going to drive us all mad, is streaming.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not all for these major studios all combining and joining forces constantly. I think that kind of drives me nuts. But like, can they just come together with some of these streamers and just make them into a single service and they all profit and they can just kind of go, yay, we did it.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, because even the
'cause-
smaller ones now, I'm like, oh, I think that's out on Shutter, and then I'm like, no, wait, maybe it's Screenbox. Oh no, wait, it's, and then I'm like, what is happening? That now,
I
like,
know.
I don't want all this. I never. That's why I have shelves with things on them so that I can
Yep.
go to them and be like,
Yep.
well,
Yeah,
at least I know Evil Dead Trap 2 is right here, so I can watch that whenever I want.
exactly. I mean, I have all these movies and all this stuff around me because I hate dealing with the streaming services. Also, the algorithms are terrible.
Yes, it's the
They
worst.
all looked at Netflix. The layout is awful.
It's awful.
And they all saw that they were number one and they said, well, let's just imitate their model. And I'm
Yeah.
like, no, don't.
And my thing
Don't.
with Netflix too is it's like, here's what I want. I want to go horror movies and scroll through their horror movies. And instead they're like, you're recently watched? And I'm like, no, I don't want to see that. And they're like, okay, funny show, kind of like I Think You Should Leave. And I'm like, no, I don't want to. What is this? And then they're like, stand-up comedy? I'm like, no. And then it's like, Home for the Holidays? I'm like, that's not even a genre right now. We're not in the holiday. And it's like, I've seen a cake once, but that's not a thing. These are just cakes in movies. It's just like so specifically not what I
Yeah.
want that I'm so frustrated by the time I get even close to it. It's like binge-worthy TV shows. And I'm like, no, for crying out loud.
And also everything that you did, every third thing has the exact same thing you
Yes.
saw when you first popped in, which
Yeah.
is the thing that they're promoting the most.
Yeah.
And you're like, how can this fit into all these different stupid random subgenres that you're throwing at me?
It's,
But that still makes it Home for the Holidays? How about,
yeah. Jurassic
latest
Park
movie.
3. I'm
Yeah.
like, was that? And they're like, it was December. You just couldn't tell because it was an island.
Well,
And you're like,
they do kind of get back together. They kind of trying to get this family back together, like for potentially for a holiday or somewhere down the road. So that kind of tracks. Yeah, it's just no, it's crazy.
if you think about it, pterodactyl, kind of like a dinosaur turkey. So it's kind of a Thanksgiving movie, Jurassic Park 3.
come on, there's birds in here.
Oh, man. Well,
Yeah.
speaking of birds, Hawk Jones, I'm glad you watched it.
I'm glad I watched it. Thank you for making me watch it. I'm just shocked this is so hard to get a hold of.
Yeah. Yeah.
If nothing else, like forget a boutique label
Mm-hmm.
picking this up and putting it out. Why is it so hard to stream
Yeah.
anywhere? Why isn't there even, like you said, even on YouTube they took it down? Why is this so hard to find?
I have
It's
no
weird.
idea.
It's crazy.
It's such a joyous thing that's being hidden from people. So I don't
Yeah, I don't get it.
get it either.
Yeah, the singing ringing trees out there. That's just sitting out there.
I heard another podcast talk about that movie and I was like, there's no way. There's no way.
Did they really talk about it?
Yes. Yeah.
What
And-
did they think?
Well, they said it was weird and strange to see and surreal. And I was like, I have had you on my podcast. There's no way that I didn't play a role in this, but I wasn't mentioned. So I don't know. I guess they found it.
So it was somebody that you've had on the show.
Yeah,
and
yeah, yeah.
Oh, interesting.
But they
no
somehow
credit.
did-
No credit.
I'm not saying I did it. I just thought I was shocked to hear anyone else talk about it. And especially be
Right.
like, you guys know it's a thing. I'm like, I didn't know it was a thing, and I found it. But
Yeah, dude, I didn't know that was a thing at all.
yeah, that is bizarre. Ryan, where can people find you?
Oh, well, they can find everything about our podcast, our socials and articles and t-shirts and episodes. Everything is at our website, newworldpicturespodcast.com. It's just that simple.
Fantastic. Thank you for returning for new releases and late returns.
Thank you for having me. What a joy Hawk Jones is. I hope everybody gets to watch and appreciate this great movie. A beautiful piece of cinema.
Yes, I couldn't
Yeah.
agree more.
Yeah, get into it and get into that fucking soundtrack because it is a banger.
Yes.
So good.
As always, I'm Dirk Marshall, and this has been VHS, where when it comes to celebrating rad movies and even radder people, we're not done yet.
VHS.